Welcome back to the program. You're still watching Gusila Breakfast Show, and this is the Thursday edition. We're getting into our first interview segment of the day, and we want to chime into some really exciting developments. Eswatini recently signed a pivotal memorandum of understanding with the United Arab Emirates. It is aimed at accelerating the nation's digital progress. You've likely heard of the Government in Your Hand initiative. It is designed to revolutionize government service delivery, and today we want to explore how this partnership is unlocking opportunities in artificial intelligence, science, technology, engineering and mathematics education, popularly known as STEM education, as well as ICT investment. Minister Savannah Maziya's vision is nothing short of bold. As she said before, the next 20 years will be vastly different from the last 20. So what does this outlook mean for Eswatini? What does it mean for our youth and for our place in the global digital economy? We're happy to have Senator Savannah Maziya, the Minister of Communication, Information Communication Technology, in studio today. A very good morning to you. I hope you're doing very well. Look, I don't know if you've seen today's headlines. People that have been watching the show today from the very beginning, yes. We have this segment where we read the newspaper headlines.
Right.
And part of the Eswatini Observer segments there is that the Prime Minister himself has said it's that Minister Savannah's office is in high demand. And with good reason, I suppose, given the trailblazing work that your office is doing. And if you'll allow me a moment there, we are really pleased to have you in such a moment where your office is in high demand.
Thanks
a couple
for
of questions for you. A lot of developments, but maybe let's start with this thing that resonates with me very deeply. The statement I've heard you say it at, was it the Digital Symposium, as well as the Government in Your Hand initiative. You're presenting it in one of the countries outside of Eswatini. The next 20 years will be vastly different from the last 20. What does this statement mean to Minister Savannah?
It means that it will be totally transformed from a digital perspective. Everything we're seeing today will be very different, whether we like it or we don't like it. We'll have to join that journey of the world to be part of that change. A lot of things that we see today are not going to be existing. A lot of jobs that we see today will not be existing. A lot of things that we're very used to dealing with will not be the same. You look at things like teleeducation and telemedicine. You know, you can be able to do surgery from another country, doing surgery with robotics. So a lot of things really are going to be transformative. So Nazi as Swaziland, as Eswatini, we need to be able to join that revolution and be part of that change.
I'll tell you why it resonates with me so much. For me, it underscores, first and foremost, the foresight as well as the urgency to then work on these developments. And one of the most recent developments is the MOU signing that we've seen at the United Arab Emirates, you know, being hailed as a milestone for Eswatini's digital transformation. Could you share more about the specifics of this partnership and how it's going to shape the country's digital landscape?
Right. So first of all, I mean, the UAE is just leading in the area of ICT and AI and all related areas. Yeah. So if you really want to do and be a leader yourself, you must follow those who are leading so you can learn from them and you can share and collaborate with them. My feeling is that this MOU is really going to help us as Eswatini to really leapfrog a lot of areas that they've been able to learn from, so that we can just sort of jump in and get to join that part of the growth in this space. But also it shows the trust that they have with our country. Yeah. And it shows that we are really going to be going with the world leaders. You know, we're a small country at the bottom of Africa, and if we can be able to partner with countries like UAE, we're really going to be able to change and move the needle. So for us as a ministry and us as a country, we're really excited about being able to have the honor of signing that MOU.
Yeah. Really looking forward to seeing, you know, the culmination of it being put into action. Oh, yes. Because I think, I'm sure you know this, the biggest, I suppose, grant that we have as media with a lot of, you know, politicians and a lot of, you know, decision makers is that we often see a lot of talk shops. Yes. And we obviously see the wheel, the thinking behind it. We see the policies, but not so much action. Yes. And I think what we then appreciate, and I suppose what the country is appreciating about the office that you currently lead right now, is the fact that we are seeing the wheel. We are seeing, you know, the policies and obviously the action as well. How does the Ministry of ICT plan to integrate what is now called artificial intelligence to say maybe integrate AI and data-driven technologies to enhance the public services?
Well, government offers about 200 some odd services to the citizens. So the program which we're putting in place, which is government in your hand, is already going to be AI infused. So every service that government's going to offer, and many more that today it's not offering, will be able to be part of that program. So AI plays a critical role in being part of that process. And I think what's really critical for us to understand is AI already exists in many things that we do. We just don't seem to understand it as AI. So you talk about the issue of MOUs being signed. I cannot comment about the past. I can only comment about where we're going in the future. You know, working in government can be challenging. Things take longer than they really should. But we approached this MOU, we began discussing this with the UAE in April of this year. And it's now fully signed. We went and discussed the programs and the investments first. So the MOU really is just an instrument for us to be able to action the programs and the investments. So the investments are already lined up for us to be able to implement. So we went the other way around because there's no point in having an MOU if you're not going to execute it. I just don't understand why you would do it. So we went, you know, sort of the way you should be able to do it is have the deal and then sign the MOU to be able to have an instrument to operate with. Yeah.
And perhaps do you have legal frameworks under your ministry that you know that you are formulating to sort of be ahead of the innovation curve? I've recently learned how critical those are.
Yes. Well, I mean, things like AI for good, things like cybersecurity, things like, you know, education and healthcare in the AI space are really critical. You need to be able to have some legislation behind it. So an MOU like this also assists us because countries like the UAE have already had legislation that is ensuring that the country and the citizens are covered and they're secure. So we're going to be able to, you know, tap onto that and be able to utilize that legislation, customize it for our market, but certainly be able to start off and have a foundational basis to work with. So we don't have to be able to be paying huge legal costs that sometimes we can't afford. But also just the thinking behind what do you input in a document of that nature. So the MOU is more than just being able to look at investments. It's also looking at the legal environment, but also to understand what's gone wrong in certain areas. So we don't have to go through those, you know, those bad experiences.
I've heard you speak many a times about how our small population is an advantage. You know, I suppose you juxtapose that with a lot of other populations in different economies around the world. How do we really leverage on this population size for us to be competitive globally?
Well, you know, they say good things come in small packages.
Absolutely.
You know, many countries that have been really successful have been small populations. You look at Switzerland about financial services. You look at Singapore. You look at Dubai itself in the UAE. We shouldn't look at our size as a disadvantage. It's actually an advantage for us if we look at certain niches that we can really be leading and experts in. And ICT is in one of the areas I think we can really lead in and in certain portions of it because it's a huge and a vast environment. But if we look at particular areas that we can really lead in, we certainly can be known around the world for them. We can be able to attract investors on them. We can be able to train our youth in those areas. We certainly can also use them, most importantly, to change the economic position of our country.
One thing that I truly appreciate about, you know, the way that I've seen that you sort of look at things. I heard you speak at the Digital Symposium, and you are very much against this mindset of, you know, being proud about writing things and have them stay on files and shelves that you know, it's archaic. You want things to be put into action. And just looking at the crux of the Digital Symposium itself, it speaks on something that is very critical for your portfolio, research. You know, let's speak about research. Our infrastructure in Eswatini, is it sufficient enough to help us do enough research? Really?
Well, you know, the old research was you had methodologies and you had all kind of folks with PhDs, but going into the future, AI will be part of that research. So if you know, the research center of the past is not going to be the research center of the future. We're going to use AI, we're going to use digitization to be able to do our research, but it's completely important. You need to be able to know what people are doing. You need to understand what's developing in the world because this world is changing all the time. I mean, if you go to different countries, Dubai being one of them, it's a construction site all the time. But also if you look at the world of AI, that the things that are being developed are just amazing and they're mind-blowing. We should be part of that. So it's really critical for us to be able to have research, understand that research is critical, but it's going to be a different kind of approach to research, not the old format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's speak on the Royal Science and Technology Park as a hub for research in itself. How do we fully leverage this park, as well as probably look into the future and having more research centers in the country?
So, the park was great thinking and wise thinking from His Majesty's point of view. I mean, he was thinking ahead of anybody. What's important about it is that it really can be an engine room and will be an engine room for both what we do in government, but also how we support the country going forward. We just need to be able to ensure that we really start from a blank slate and really clean it up and get it to be sort of investor ready and future ready. Yeah.
It's very important. I want us to go back to the Government in Your Hand initiative. A lot of people love the idea of it, but I just want to fully understand it myself. It sounds very ambitious and very, very handy. Bringing services closer to the people, I suppose, is even what the country is about. When you look at our constitution, what Tinkundla really means. Talk to me about how it's going to bring the government services to the people and what are the immediate priorities.
Right. Well, 2 words: dignity, convenience.
Right.
That's it. Right? Dignity meaning you're not standing in line for hours. Standing in line for cocoa and all that. To only be told the system is down. We give you a dignity. And convenience. You're a TV man, you're ready, you're busy all the time, your passport is expiring or expires or whatever. You should be able to, at the comfort of your own home, apply for it and have it couriered to you if you choose, or pick it up at Tinkundleni or a library. It's a huge project we're taking on, and it's very ambitious. But we're hoping, would say, all government departments are going to come on board, because if they don't, we're a service department to them and to the country. So if we get that support and if we're allowed to really drive this, we can really transform this country and give everybody the right to be able to have democracy in this particular area, where everybody's got a fair chance. Because once you do that digitization, it then spills over to schools, to healthcare, to agriculture, to all these other areas, and all of a sudden you're stimulating the economy and enabling people to open up their own businesses, to be able to have, because you have to touch government at some point. But if it's going to take 10 weeks to be able to get this, 14 weeks to be able to get the other thing, you're inconvenienced. So we're trying to get that convenience to you. We're trying to get that dignity to you, and that's our positioning. But also we're bringing it to the globe and opening up those opportunities for you to be able to be better and do better for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose the elephant in the room when it comes to that particular conversation for the longest time here in Eswatini has been, for lack of a better word, the perennial cost of data.
Yes.
Very, very expensive in Eswatini. We have, discussed it for so many years, and I remember it has been a challenge as well when it comes to implementing what they call the e-commerce readiness assessment. It was one of the most key challenges. How do we deal with this perennial cost of data?
It's not as expensive as we think it is. It's expensive when you compare it to our cost, our income ratios. That's why it becomes expensive. But keep in mind, since March we've lowered the costs quite, dramatically. Yeah. You look at someone like MTN, they were able to lower their costs from 50 cents to 25 cents. So there's been a big move, and it will lower. But one of the most important things we've got to do is to lay fiber in the country. We've got to bring in more bandwidth. And we are looking at exciting things to be able to do that, and to do that in the most cost-effective manner. It's not easy, I think you heard me speak about that we require 2.8 billion to be able to lay fiber throughout the whole country. We do not have 2.8 billion. So it takes longer to be able to get around to doing that. But we will be able to do that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, the problem is when we do buy, the data from South Africa, we've got to cover too many costs for it to get to you. So if there's too many costs for it to cover, then of course it's going to cost more than it should. But our position and our drive is to be able to, to figure out how we can continuously minimize that costing, because, data is no longer a luxury. Now it's like buying bread. You must have it. You need it for schools. I think COVID taught us how much it was so important to have that data for kids to be able to access education. But also it's a leveler of education, that everybody gets a fair chance to be able to get the same education and be able to get a fair chance at having a good kickstart in life. It gives you issues, solutions in the area of healthcare. So you cannot look at it as, oh no, data is just luxury. It's absolutely what connects us to the world, but also it's what connects our children to be able to have a better education and a better life. So we will certainly be continuously working to lowering costs.
Yeah.
But I just want people to understand the reason why it becomes so expensive is when we buy it, there's too many costs to cover, and we need to look at how we minimize those costs dramatically.
Okay. Allow me to segue a little bit back into what we touched on a little bit, which is global partnerships. It goes without saying how fast evolving the technological landscape is. You know, partnerships become very crucial.
Yes.
It becomes incumbent to make sure that we really do make strategic partnerships, and we are seeing a broader strategy to making sure. I mean, the UAE MOU signing is a result of that. How do we fully leverage more partnerships going forward? Is that something that is in your mind?
Absolutely. But you want to be able to be strategic about it. You don't go into every single partner, because then you spread yourself thin and you're not able to execute. Because part of the partnership is when you sign this MOU, even the partner wants you to be able to deliver. And when you don't and you just keep signing MOUs, you actually minimize and erode your position as a country. But also those partnerships and who you partner with tells the world who you are. So as small as we are, when you go with the bigger players, the more, the more credible and experienced players, also positions us. Number three, we do not have the kind of money that the partners have. So how do we use that collaboration to be able to lean on them to be able to help us resource? I mean, talking about this issue of data, talking about this issue of government in your hand, talking about the issue of investments. They will bring that money. They will bring that kind of financial resourcing that we require. Because if we're going to wait for the government budget, it's just not going to be able to be sufficient. And it's going to take forever for us to be able to cover that road. So you've got to think very differently. You've got to really look at this entire environment as a business environment, because it is. Whether you're in government or not, it is a business, because, you know, if rents and cents are spent, then you must think about the income coming in as well. And that's the differentiator we're thinking about. We're not thinking about just being able to bring in investors. We're thinking very differently for government. We're thinking of saying, if an investor comes into the country, we should be able to have a stake in the business. Somehow, some way we can get some kind of royalty, so that we're able to continuously get money for us to be able to be sustainable as RSTP, as the government, as whoever. We can't think in the old way. I'm always entertained when people think of, you know, bringing old thinking for new, you know, for old thinking for new problems. We've got to be able to really think about how do we think in a manner that separates us and really makes us different. This old thinking stuff is really kind of not sufficient for us.
Yeah, I'd be very negligent to not speak about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Doing my research on your work, I do see how, you know, you've always been enthused about this in particular. Goes as far back as 11 years from what I was able to dig up. It could be far more than what, it could be far way before that. Talk to me about, you know, this being a key focus on your agenda, the steps that are being taken to ensure that our youth is prepared to, you know, leverage all the opportunities for AI, robotics, and digital innovation.
Yeah, I've been involved in STEM for over 20 years. For the past 11 years, I've been working with the UN as a special ambassador on the issue of STEM, especially as it pertains to girls and women. We have to find a way to really have a focus on having STEM in education. I think it's criminal that we don't have, you know, K through 12 having STEM as part of a necessary subject, not even as a choice. Because even if you don't use it as a career, the world will be so STEM filled that if you don't have that as part of your package in your training, in your school career, you're going to lose out, because you're going to not be able to participate. It's almost like someone who doesn't know how to operate a cell phone. You're left out of the world and how it operates. We need to be able to figure out how do we quickly, very quickly, introduce STEM as part of our curriculum. And we need to be able to ensure that maths and science is part of our curriculum in a stronger way. So that's really what I think we're hoping to work on. We are working with the Department of Education, but we also as a ministry are wanting to be very aggressive in that area.
I can't really recall how much time you've spent since you assumed office, but I just want a quick answer. She's conducting your own eye study. We are seeing the political will now, very, very enthusing. How are you seeing the youth's, proactiveness in making sure that they will indeed leverage the opportunities that are going to come with your portfolio?
It's so funny. I always tell the people in the ministry that my target market is 35 and under. Right? Because it's planning for the future. Yeah. So you can't plan for someone's future without them participating. Yeah. So that's why I'm always talking about the youth. I mean, one of the things that we're looking to do with sort of the new RSTP, if you will, is to make an engine room and really a boiler room to have a lot of these children who come in there who want to be able to have different apps to train them. And when we get the investors to get them to work for these companies, we need to have the skills base, by the way, because you bring an investor, someone from Eswatini must be able to work in that company. So we've got to train people. So we're going to use, RSTP as a boiler room for training, but also we're going to be the partnerships, again, send kids to be able to go to school and be able to learn ICT. The great thing about ICT is you don't have to have a PhD. You can do low tech and high tech and mid tech. So, wherever you fall into the spectrum, we can be able to give you that opportunity to work, yes. And you can also develop as you work. So it's exciting that, we must get away from the thing of staying in positions too long, It's not fair for these kids, and we close opportunities for them, We should be able to leave soon and let them be able to run the world. And it is their world that we're creating. Whatever we're doing today, we're writing history for our children. Yeah. And I always tell friends, when you are living your life, understand that you're writing your history today. So if we as leaders in Eswatini can be able to understand that everything we do impacts our children, everything we do stops or opens opportunities for them, and it creates an environment where there can be a future for them. Absolutely. That is really how we should be leading, thinking about those children.
Absolutely, and I suppose as we leverage our small population size, we have our demographic dividend says we're a young population too.
Absolutely.
So we're going to fully leverage all those opportunities.
For sure.
Senator Maziya, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate having you on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been good. Thank you.
And that brings us to the close of what has been an enlightening conversation with Senator Savannah Maziya. Her office obviously leading the charge in Eswatini's digital transformation, opening doors to opportunities in artificial intelligence, ICT investment opportunities that will undoubtedly shape our future. As we look ahead to the next 20 years, it's clear that Eswatini is on the brink of a technological evolution, and trust me, I'm ready to see everything unfold. Let's go for a net break. We'll be back shortly.